They said they were bringing civilization, but what they really brought was death. At the end of the 19th century, deep in Central Africa, a land rich in ivory and rubber fell under the private rule of one man, King Leopold II of Belgium. He never set foot there, yet he called it Congo Free State. In truth, it was anything but free. Leopold's agents and soldiers forced entire villages to collect wild rubber. Men, women, and even children were ordered into the dense rainforest. They carried baskets, climbed trees covered with thorny vines, and bled for every drop of rubber sap. And what happened if they failed? The punishment was simple and horrifying. Belgian officers demanded proof that bullets weren't wasted. So soldiers cut off the hands of those they killed, or sometimes of those still alive. Hands, severed, dried, and counted, became the measure of loyalty. In some reports, even children's hands were cut off just to balance the books. But why rubber? At the time, rubber was gold. Europe and America needed it for bicycle tires, telegraph wires, industrial machines. Leopold's Congo supplied tons of rubber. And while he built lavish palaces in Brussels, the Congolese paid in blood. A British missionary, E.D. Morel, described baskets piled high, not with fruit but with severed hands. The terror wasn't random. The force public, Leopold's private army, was created to keep the rubber flowing. They marched into villages with rifles and chicot whips, leather whips studded with metal. The chicot tore skin to the bone. A few lashes could kill, but it was used daily, on mothers, fathers, children. Fear kept the quotas high. Reports from the time speak of families burned alive inside huts, women taken hostage until their husbands brought enough rubber, and fields abandoned because everyone hid in the forests, fleeing the soldiers. Between 1885 and 1908, it's estimated that half the population of Congo, around 10 million people, vanished, not through war or famine, but through forced labor, punishment, and terror. In Europe, Leopold presented himself as a philanthropist. He built museums, hospitals, and funded explorers. But back in Congo, the land was soaked in blood. But the world couldn't stay blind forever. Missionaries, traders, and a few brave reporters began sending letters and photographs back to Europe. What they described shocked even hardened politicians. Villages burned to ash, children without hands, men so thin they could barely stand. One name stood out, E.D. Morel, a British shipping clerk. He noticed ships leaving Belgium full of guns and chains, and returning loaded with ivory and rubber, but nothing paid in trade. He realized, this is slavery, hidden behind the lie of civilization. Morel and others formed the Congo Reform Association. Through newspapers, speeches, and photographs, they exposed Leopold's secrets: the forced labor camps, the chicot whippings, and the mountain of severed hands. Public outrage spread. Even famous writers like Mark Twain spoke out. By 1908, the pressure was too great. The Belgian parliament forced Leopold to hand Congo over to the state. But it was too late for millions. Leopold died a year later. At his funeral, crowds reportedly turned their backs on his coffin. But the scars he left behind never healed. Congo's population had been cut in half. Whole villages vanished, and the terror haunted generations. Today, statues of Leopold still stand in parts of Europe. Some defend them as history. But in Congo, people remember him differently, as the king who turned rivers red with blood, all for rubber. This isn't folklore. It's the truth they tried to hide. Subscribe to Dark Africa Files, where the past still speaks.